bottom line, in terms of capital raising, particularly with shares, cooperatives are different. The delivery of capital growth and dividends through shares is merely only one means by which the membership of a cooperative is intended to benefit. So it's not the natural, attractive entity as a business vehicle for an external investor. And that creates difficulty in attractive capital. So two mechanisms are recognised specifically under the CNL as debentures, and a debenture is another word for a loan. It's typically describing a loan that is chopped up into little parcels of discrete bits of money that are recognised by a note, and typically there's a deed that sits somewhere behind those notes that says what the terms of repayment of the loan are. And then there's cooperative capital units, or CCUs, and these are a unique form of interest in the capital of a cooperative to try and create a vehicle that gives the holder of a note a right to some share in the equity of the cooperative. Now, the relevant provisions in the CNL says that a cooperative capital unit cannot be a share in the share capital. Now, that raises questions as to how does that actually work. Now, it does require a relatively detailed understanding of what share capital is and what the other capital of an organisation might be. I mean, if you've got an ordinary share in a company, then you've got a share in the whole of the capital of the company. So what that provision is trying to reflect is that when you issue a share in a cooperative, most typically it's going to be limited to a face value return of capital, but it doesn't have to be. But it's the idea is that you might have $100,000 divided up into 1,000 shares of $100 each, and that when the capital is returned, you only get the face value of the share back. And the value above that in the capital of the cooperative is something into which the capital units of a cooperative might give a unit interest. But if you do not articulate the demarcation between what the units give you a right to and what the shares give you a right to, you're just creating a huge amount of trouble for the future. And of course, it's going to be the board that ends up being responsible. But consider what you can do with these. Capital units, shares, debentures are as flexible as you want them to be. There are no rules really about what you can't do. All right? You can't give votes with shares. You can have votes amongst units, but only in relation to the rights and interests of the unit holding. But you might be able to create an opportunity for unit holders to make so many seats available on the board or similar thing. That, you know, it is up to you and it's up to your imagination to try and make this work. So these are all the ways. Now, look, a typical pathway to attract investor money is to offer an interest rate. If you're going to offer interest rates, you can do that through accumulating dividend units, such that if you can't pay the accumulating dividend of 6%, 14% one year, it accumulates and adds to next year, so that you know that every year, by the time the thing gets wound up, you're going to get your 6 or 14% eventually, unless there is not enough money in the pot. And then there's going to be an order of priority. Do your units get paid out before the shares? Do they get paid out equally with the shares? Is there security attached to the units? Is there security attached to the debentures? I mean, any way you see it, you can do it. But you've got to make the rules as to how these things butt up against each other, because they can't overlap. If they overlap, you've got conflict. It's the definition of conflict.